it going, everybody? We are back here, as always, in Garden Groove, and we're introducing another concept today. Today's concept is the sub kick. Now, if you don't know what a sub kick is, I'll give you a brief history. Basically, the sub kick, sort of the idea originated by, back in the day, people would take a Yamaha NS10 speaker and they would run it into a DI box, put it in front of a kick drum, and it would basically invert the speaker so that the speaker was picking up sound, acting as a microphone diaphragm. And so it would pick up a bunch of low end, and you could add it to your kick drum sound to really, just add that big, giant, bombastic punch of the low end and better capture it. Now, there have been several different iterations of the sub kick. Yamaha most famously made their own sub kick since the original version was using their speaker. But then you've had other brands that have made their own versions, and usually those versions are in the $300 price range. But today we're going to make one for give or take $100. And some of you can make it for even less if you already have one of the key pieces of what we need. So I'm going to show you all of our ingredients here, and we're going to make the sub kick for you and explain how it works, and hopefully you can do it yourself at home. All right, so the most important piece of this is a cheap combo amp. This one we got off Facebook Marketplace for $80. My personal one that I used was my Line 6 Spider 3. I'm sure many of you have one of those. But what we need this thing for is the speaker. So this is a little 8-inch speaker. It's perfect for what we're going to use it for. We're going to disconnect the contacts on it, and we're going to wire it up to an XLR cable. So this is the XLR cable that we have. You used to be able to go to Guitar Center and get it straight off the spool, and then you could just buy a connector and then solder it up. The one that we went to today did not have that. I don't know if that's something that Guitar Centers everywhere have discontinued. It was a huge bummer for us when we found out, but we can still work around that. What we're going to do is we're going to take this thing, we're going to chop off this end of it, and then we're going to keep the male end. And that's going to be our microphone input. And it's going to work just like you plug in any other microphone. We're going to solder the other end to the speaker of the amp. And then we're going to be able to plug this thing straight into our interface. And we're going to have a working sub kick. And if everything goes correctly, we shouldn't have any noise issues. And we'll actually need to pad it as it's going in, because it's such a big diaphragm. It's going to take in so much sound that it's actually going to be in need of usually a pad or something to keep it from clipping. So without further ado, I'm going to get after it, and I'll do a little voiceover as I'm working to explain what I'm doing. But it's only a few steps, and it's probably one of the easiest soldering jobs you can do, and it's a great way to learn how to solder. This is a good project to do it with. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is take these pliers, and I'm going to detach the contacts from the head portion of the amp and the speaker portion of the amp. Normally you can just do this with your bare hands, but these were pretty tight, so we just took pliers and did it. So now I'm going to take this XLR cable, and I'm going to remove the female side. So the male side is right there. It is going to be where we plug our cable in, and then the female side is going to get chopped off with some kitchen scissors. There you go. You can save that for later. You can always use that for something else. Now I'm going to strip this cable. I'm not going to be doing it very efficiently, but if you have some scissors, you can just roll it around against the blade of the scissors. If you do it softly, you won't cut through the whole thing, and you can pull that jacket off. And then it pops off like that, and now you're going to see some braided wire, which forms a shield around the inner wires. You can just take that, twist it up, and cut it off. And then the inner wires are going to be your positive and your negative. I'm going to do the same thing with the positive and the negative, where I'm going to take the scissors and be even more delicate, try to make a little incision on the coating of the wire, and then I'm going to pull that piece off. pretty difficult to do, and if you do have a wire stripper, I would do that instead. I was just working with what I had right there available to me, and if you've done it enough times, it's not too hard. Now, you do want to get probably a solid inch and a half of extra room. So what I did was I didn't cut it far down enough, so I had to cut up more. But as you can see, I'm going to pull off the ends of the coating on the inner wires. All right, now for the fun part, we're going to pull out the soldering iron. And what you're going to need is a soldering iron and a little bit of solder. We're going to do what's called tinning the wire. So what you're going to do is spin the wire around in your fingers, and then you're going to take a little bit of the solder and you're going to push it up against that wire. And then you're going to take the soldering iron, push that up against the wire until the solder melts. Now here, I didn't have a clamp with me, so I'm not doing it in the most efficient way possible. If you can get a third set of hands in there, or a third hand, you can probably do it a little bit easier if you can get a friend to help you out, or if you have something to hold it in place. But that's what I'm going to do, is tin it, and that just makes sure that the solder goes all the way through all the threads, and you get a perfect contact, and every thread is making contact at the source. So I'm going to do that for both the positive and negative. Now, when connecting it, you can see on the right side, the red wire was connecting, that's the negative. And on the right side, the black wire was connecting, and that's the positive. We're going to reverse this so that the polarity is reversed, and the speaker is actually capable of taking signal in instead of putting signal out. So I'm going to connect the positive side from the XLR cable to the negative contact on the back of the speaker. Then I'm going to do the same thing and connect the negative side of the XLR cable to the positive contact of the speaker. Now that that's done, we have what should be a working subkick. Now all we have to do is go and plug it in. Okay, so we got it wired up now. That's what it looks like. We're going to put it right here in front of our kick drum. The way I like to line this thing up is I like to look at the curvature of the kick drum and the curvature of the speaker and sort of line the speaker up with inside the curvature of that hoop on the kick. I don't think that's anything magical necessarily. It just ensures that it's capturing directly inside and there's no part of it that's pointed at the outside of the kick. Of course, we also have our Beta 52 and our FET 47 clone. These are, both great mics by themselves and together. So adding this as a third is going to give us a really, really well-rounded kick drum sound. So we're going to just take our XLR here, coming off the back of the sub kick, plug it on in, and now we're hooked up. So now Taylor's going to hop on these drums and give us some kicks, give us some hits, and we're going to see what this thing did.